So happy to be back.
Mr. O'Reilly. So yeah, budget workshop number 2. To start with, any questions, comments, thoughts, need for further additional information on budget workshop number 1, which for us really was some building and grounds needs and transportation. We already didn't have any in the cafeteria. There were several building and grounds issues, and then there was the one transportation issue, which is essentially purchase of us.
Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. Yep. Nothing too grand. Okay, so that brings us to budget workshop number 2, which is what I like to call the heart of our budget, the instructional budget. So tonight what I had was a series of slides, and I gave you folks a corresponding, not exactly corresponding, but it's kind of a text version of much of what I'm going to be talking about on the instructional and co-curricular budget. Not budget, excuse me. Needs. Yeah, we haven't built the budget yet, but these are the needs. And again, I encourage you all to ask questions, to speak freely, to challenge my opinions, because these are my opinions, but my opinions are based on working with our students and faculty day in and day out. So I think I have a pretty good handle on what our needs are. Some of these, for those of you that, you were all around the budget table last year, so they're going to look familiar. Some of them are going to look very familiar because those needs haven't changed. So the first one is our academic intervention services, or AIS, in reading remediation. And I kind of group those together because they are common needs. They serve a common population, and they can be used interchangeably. But backing up a little bit, academic intervention services, first and foremost, are required for students in grades 4 through 12 based on their performance on New York State tests. They start taking tests in 3rd grade. Simply put, if they don't score high enough in 4th grade, they're required to receive academic intervention services.
If they get a 1 or a 2.
If they get a 1 or a 2. Yep. Now, academic intervention services doesn't look the same for each student because their needs aren't the same. But oftentimes AIS involves additional instructional time with a service provider. Okay?
What percentage of our children here require AIS?
Now, sadly, over 50%.
Do you expect it to go up?
Get worse, meaning?
Right.
No, I hope that it's going to. Well, it depends on what service we provide. If we don't do anything differently, it's not going to get any better. It might get worse.
And
Yep.
if we provide,
Then it should. The purpose is provide more support so your scores will go up and students will need less support. Theoretically.
But that's all the different things like the math, the science, the English, it's all.
Yeah, really,
For the
you know,
50%.
and if you look at the second bullet there, the RTI, and I apologize for the acronym, it's a response to intervention. That's more of a special education phrase. But that model often involves some form of academic intervention used prior to grade 4. So on one hand, I say we have to do it starting grade 4. But for many students, because of the response to intervention, we start as early as kindergarten with reading remediation. That's why these are linked. You know, you got to develop good readers to develop good students. Those reading skills are taught those literacy skills are taught in the pre-K curriculum, but we're hitting them hot and heavy K1 and 2. And then hopefully you have a well-developed reader by grade 3. Fewer than 50% of our students are well-developed readers by grade 3. It's a problem. Because then fourth grade is more difficult, fifth grade is more difficult, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because all of the content areas, Mr. Fink social studies, Ms. Chaplet science, all of those things are so language dependent. If you struggle in language and reading and writing and literacy, then those content areas become more difficult, harder to access, less pleasurable because of the language deficiencies. So the last bullet, traditionally K6 for reading remediation, some schools actually have middle school reading teachers. Those are, I would say, luxuries, but it's nice to have. So really the AIS and the reading remediation for K6 is very similar. 712 is different. Then it's very much by content area. A kid, a student, when they're in 10th grade, they're required to take the global studies exam. If they don't pass the global studies exam in 11th grade, we're required to provide them academic intervention services because that's a graduation requirement. Same thing with algebra in 9th grade, earth science in 9th grade, etc. So AIS looks a little bit different once a kid hits 9th grade. Questions on the AIS or the reading remediation? So now just kind of revisit where we once were.
Just to.
Yes, Mr. Corey.
The AIS is really required
It is.
by New York State.
It is required, yes. Yep. So our old model that we used to provide services was reading remediation in K6, and then our classroom teachers and special educators, along with teaching assistants, provided AIS to students in grades K through 6 as well. AIS could be math. Basically, in K6, we provide AIS in math and ELA. So we would provide that, if it was a reading deficit under English language arts, we tried to provide it with a reading teacher. If it was a language deficit under English language arts, we might provide it with Mr. Knierim, our speech therapist. If it was a math deficit, we would try to schedule that with a special education teacher or teaching assistant that would work collaboratively with the teacher. So it really depends on the individual student need. Then in grade 6 through 12, we provided AIS in large part using content area teachers. We provided AIS with an English teacher, with a math teacher, with a social studies teacher, with a science teacher. Because at that time we had 2 academic teachers in each subject area, grade 6 through 12. So we could teach all of our core classes, all of our electives, and teach and cover academic intervention services needs with those 2 teachers, 6-12. Flashback, went through the budget crisis 4 years ago, had to eliminate those academic subject area teachers in English, math, social studies, and science. We went away from a 6-12 model, went to a K6, 7-12, and now 7-12 is 1 teacher. Rather than 6-12 covering core classes, electives, and academic intervention with 2, essentially now we cover just core classes with 1. In other words, our social studies teacher doesn't have an awful lot of time in his schedule to do academic intervention services. Our math teacher does not have an awful lot of time in his schedule to do academic intervention service. We do try to fold it in a little bit, but it's very minimal, and it's far less effective than what we used to do. Obviously, we just had more manpower. We could provide more service. There's a direct correlation. So my solution, again, possible solution is, one solution, is go back to the concept that I brought to you last year, is to create a 5-9 position. and to increase our reading position to full time. We've had a half-time reading teacher for, I don't know, a decade. Before that, we had a full-time reading teacher. If we had a full-time reading teacher, we can schedule more elementary students with the reading teacher. If we have a 5-9 position, we can assign some of the ELA and math instruction to the 5-9 teacher. We can assign some of the academic intervention services in any content area, ELA, math, social studies, or science, in grades 5 to 9 to that teacher. They're a generalist. They're almost like an elementary teacher that teaches grades 5 through 9. They're a generalist teacher.
I think Newcomb has had
Newcomb does
somebody
have.
like that for a while. And
They have.
very
They've had one
successful.
for. Yeah, it allows them an awful lot of flexibility. And you're going to see a little bit later that 5-9 teacher provides additional benefits beyond AIS as well. The last bullet is to provide a local summer school program, because summer school counts as academic intervention services. If you have kids not reading at grade level in the elementary, if you have kids struggling in mathematics at the elementary level, if you provide some type of instruction in a summer program, it counts as academic intervention services. Essentially, it gets giving kids that struggle and have gaps in their learning 10 weeks off in the summer is not good.
No, it's not.
We used to have a local program. We offered a special education local program and a regular education local program. It's been several years since we did a local program. I honestly don't remember, but it's been 4 or 5 years at least, Nancy. 6, 7 years maybe. But we did. We had a K2 section and a 3-5 section. They came in for an hour, hour and a half. Again, kept them immersed in literacy. The kids that needed math help got math help. We staffed it with a teacher and assistant each group, put them on a bus, sent them to youth program, or sent them home. It's a great program.
Yep.
Really was. We generate the list from teacher recommendation. It's voluntary, so parents had to agree to send their kids to the elementary program. We had pretty good participation, honestly. But it's not for everybody. Not everybody needs it.
What would you estimate that would cost from a budget perspective?
I will get to that
Okay.
a little bit later. Great question. The second main category, so we leave AIS and we go to program, secondary program. We need increased locally provided electives. We need to offer college level courses for our students as a form of enrichment. We need to offer advanced math. We're required by state education department regulations to accelerate our math students who are deserving of acceleration in grade 8. We don't have anything to offer them in grade 12. So we accelerate them, starting them early in algebra in grade 8, and when they're senior, we don't have anything to offer them. That's not fair. It's not every year we accelerate students. We might go a year or two when we don't have any students that need to be accelerated. This year's 8th grade, we have 2 or 3, and this year's 9th grade, we have 2 or 3. So,
You've got 8th graders taking algebra.
yeah. And in 4 years, they won't have a math course to take. It's not an effective solution. So, we need more locally provided electives. We need the ability to offer math electives other than calculus. We used to teach a nice STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, or a math, science, and technology elective. We've taught law, current events. Actually, we might be teaching current events right now. We used to teach honors English for the kids. You know, we talk about upper level math. We don't teach any upper level English either. We don't need it every year. but we don't need certain special education services every year either, and we provide those when we need them.
And it
You know,
depends on the student.
The kid at the top of the spectrum gets shortchanged, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we have to keep thinking about that. We have to provide opportunities for all of our students. The last bulleted item is a new item this year. Given our student population, given our location, we have some students that, I guess, a traditional come to school, take 7 classes, all throughout their high school career, prepare, take the SATs and go to college. We have some kids that don't fit that mold. We have some kids by the time they're a senior, they've already exhausted our elective offerings, most all of them. So they're looking for something different. School to work programs is one option that we've dabbled in a little bit, experimented with, but I'd like to further develop that for those students. Because the other option that we have that isn't wildly popular is to send kids to the half-day career and technical education programs at BOCES. Fantastic programs. This year we have 1 student. Last year we had 3 students. Next year we'll have no more than 1. We've had years with 0. We've never had more than 3, I don't think. Well, we have maybe a long time ago. They're very appropriate for some of our students, and some of our students don't want to go for a variety of reasons. Probably mainly, it's 2 hours on a bus every day. It's a long ride. That pulls them away from their friends, so you have that social issue. But
And extracurriculars, maybe,
it makes extracurricular
might have an impact.
has an impact on some fundraising, has an impact. It doesn't have that much of an impact on athletics because they do get back in time for almost all events. But it makes it less convenient. You know, you're on a bus for an hour, now you got to get off the bus, you got to get on another bus, drive to Newcomb, and go to practice. It's hard. And some of our students honestly don't go because they would like to, but they don't feel comfortable around new kids. So it's a variety of issues. But in any event, we don't have some of our kids that need other options pursuing that option. So I think it's time for us to more seriously consider kind of a bridge option, a school to work option, where they take some of our classes in the morning and then we pair them with an employer in the afternoon and they get some work-based learning experiences. They don't get high school credit, but a lot of our students don't need more credit. They do need to be engaged in something productive. They don't need to be sitting in a study hall, or frankly, they don't need to be taking an elective that they're not interested in, you know, even remotely interested. I mean, downright miserable in the elective because we only let kids carry so many study halls. So there comes a time with Mr. Dorsey in scheduling, he says, you know, it really doesn't matter. You're going to choose this or this because you can't have another study hall. That's not a good situation.
Tim, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
I mean, just knowing the region that we're in, there's such limited opportunity for work.
I know.
So does that then have us again use our transportation to take them down to either Warrensburg or the Falls?
It's a great question. It's a huge concern. It's a huge practical obstacle. Let's say that we had 1 or 2 kids a year that needed something like this. There isn't an awful lot local. There's a little bit, but there is not an awful lot. What we would try to do is partner them with employers that are on our bus routes. Or if the kid is a driver, then it's someplace close enough where they could drive themselves to and from the work-based learning. But transportation is a huge, huge obstacle. Yeah.
I can think of one kid in that school to work program about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, who was a driver. He's a senior, and took classes in the morning, and then went to the work in the afternoon with EMS. And
Yep,
it was
I remember
great
that.
for him.
Yep, it was a great,
program.
yeah. Again, some of our seniors are 17, they're 18, kind of same old, same old, same old, same old. They get tired. They get that senioritis. Some do, some do, some don't. Um, some need something different. But those soft skills, a lot of those things that they'll gain through being mentored by an employer, those are huge. Even if they're going to leave that and go to college, go to trade school, no matter what they're going to do, you pair them with the right employer, it's extremely valuable. And again, they don't need the additional elective credits; they're already there. Um, it's not for everybody. Calculus is not for everybody. Humanities electives as a senior, they're not for everybody. Our challenge is in a small school situation to try to provide enough breadth and offerings, diverse offerings, so that we're meeting our students' needs. And it's incredibly challenging because we are so small. So you had another question?
No, I was just going to say, I just know where we came from. I mean, it's a viable option in every high school to
Yeah.
work in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, they're in a city.
So you have access.
Oh, they have
Transportation.
Hop on a bus. And, yeah.
And it is the transportation is our challenge in that situation.
Yeah. It is.
But I agree. I think there's a tremendous benefit for the kids that are ready for that.
Mhm.
And to your point, go out and get some real life experience with a boss, maybe they like or maybe they don't like, and how they get
Still good experience.
right. They have
Yeah.
to deal with it.
Absolutely.
But transportation is the issue.
It is. Yeah. Any other questions on this first slide? So again, some solutions. That 5-9 teacher can provide us with some solutions in the secondary level. If we reassign some of the core instruction in grades 7 and 8, say, now our content area who's booked full schedule could teach calculus, could teach college English, could teach a math, science, technology elective. It opens up their schedule to do some different things. All right?
Maybe even an Adirondack history.
Maybe even an Adirondack history
Which
class.
is always nice. I remember that.
This year? We're doing it this year? Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
The other solution is to restore a distance learning program. Talked about this several times. Don't want to beat a dead horse, but we have a room fully equipped, ready to go. We're not connected because connection's expensive. But this would provide for some increased coursework, some electives. And also, and I've talked to the board about this, it provides for varied learning experiences. When we had DL, it wasn't wildly popular with our students. They would much rather sit in a classroom with Mr. Fink and take his class. We're challenged because we're small in offering diverse and varied learning experiences. They have the same English teacher for 6 years, the same social studies teacher for 6 years, good and bad. They leave us. They haven't been exposed to an awful lot of change, and certainly no rapid or significant change at all. Take a DL class from a teacher in Newcomb or Indian Lake or Schuylerville or Johnsburg. You don't know them. They really don't know you, but now you're challenged to engage in conversation, engage in the curriculum, and meet the standards, the learning standards, without all of the extra supports that we give here at Minerva. When they're walking down the hall, hey, you didn't hand in your homework for the third time. Where the teacher in Schuylerville is going to say, yeah, you didn't hand in your homework for the third time, that's a 0. Right? That's what happens when we go to college. You're accountable for your own performance. And I'm not saying we want to just throw our kids to the wolves, but our kids need to learn with kids from other school, not the same ones they've been learning with for 13 years. They need to learn from different teachers, and they need to have, it'd be nice to have access to different curriculum, just courses that we can't teach. Psychology, marine science, the list goes on and on and on. We went so far in one board meeting, and I don't remember how long ago this was, to actually the board setting board policy. If we had a DL program, it's a graduation requirement that you successfully complete 1 or 2 DL classes. I think it's a great idea. Put our kids in some less than comfortable situations and provide them the support that they need and an opportunity to adapt, to be challenged, to solve problems, to get them ready, to get them more ready. So advantages. It also offers opportunities for teacher collaboration. We didn't use it a lot for that, and I'm disappointed to say that. But in our True North model, I truly believe that we have to use it for teacher collaboration, administrator collaboration. Rather than me hopping in a car and driving to Long Lake for a meeting, I go in the DL room, I push the on switch, and we all connect via DL. Things like that. Teachers. First grade teachers. We have 1. Johnsburg has 2. Indian Lake has 1. Newcomb has 1. They kind of are teaching and working in their own little domain, their own little island. Connect them with other first grade teachers. We do that deliberately once a year, and they're connected on their own to some degree, but DL is a great way to provide them that opportunity as well. And really, the work-based learning program, we'd actually have to create a program. The other issue with work-based learning program, a bona fide work-based learning program has a certified instructor. It requires a certified teacher. I would propose that we share that teacher amongst several schools, and then we have somebody locally to serve as the on-site facilitator. I'm not proposing that we hire somebody certified in work-based learning, because I think that would be a tremendous obstacle as well. So again, goes back to that 5-9 teacher, goes back to the DL program. Some recurring themes here. DL's not the solution. It's a solution. It's a tool. 5-9 teacher's not the solution. It's a solution. It's a tool that'll meet some needs, just like work-based learning. There'll be times when we don't have anybody that's, when we don't have any seniors that need a work-based learning experience. There might be times when half the class needs one. We've had that very recently. In the last couple of years, a lot of students just kind of spinning the wheels a little bit. In our program, they lack a little bit of direction, more than the average 17-year-old.
I have a couple questions
Yeah.
that we haven't talked about, but it really comes from my exposure up to Lake Placid. Is there any opportunity to approach children and parents too? I think as important are the parents prior to pre-K in terms of not a class, but in a way it's an opportunity for them to understand how important the engagement is in the child's education, in the discipline of the reading, in the exposure to the reading.
We do an exposure program through the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library.
Okay.
So we provide books starting right after they're born.
Okay.
We help local families build home libraries through the Dolly Parton Imagination Library.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's like a once a month they get a book. So that's one tool that we use.
It's been going for about 8 years.
Yeah, several years. So that at least, but again, that's one tool. So we're providing some literature. It's in the home. How it's used We don't know. But while wouldn't it be great to offer a regional parenting class or a young parenting support group via DL? You know,
Yeah.
not even curricular, but for parents. Have somebody from Essex County, do an online program and broadcast it to the True North schools at 7 o'clock at night. Our student council comes in and provides childcare for the parent, and they go in and they, kibitz with other parents about whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, we do not offer beyond providing some books. We do not offer anything. So,
But that is a tool, you're right.
yeah.
It just, my awareness was really heightened to the importance of,
Early.
right,
Yeah.
and the engagement of parents
Yeah.
in the whole education process.
Mhm.
It starts at home.
It does and continues.
Yeah, really early.
Yeah, early.
Yeah.
I like that idea though of the DL. If we did do the DL, that parents could be here, be comfortable with each other in their own community, but yet get exposure to other communities and other situations.
Yeah, as a curricular offering, a lot of schools offer a class called parenting. It seems a little odd to teach it to 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds.
That's the one with they carry
The
the
babies.
babies.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I do too.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Let me see.
we don't offer any type of parenting class at all. It's offered through the Home and Careers Family and Consumer Sciences. We don't have a Family and Consumer Sciences program, but that's usually where parenting is offered through that program. We actually, several years ago, we received the parenting class via DL from the Family and Consumer Sciences teacher in Indian Lake, whom they no longer have. They reduced their program as well, but yeah, so our kids were carrying around the
Babies.
babies. Yeah.
The needy babies.
I mean, that's another use for distance learning, that technology. Again, we had it for several years. I always offered it up to the local fire departments for training, ambulance corps, because I know other towns have used the school's DL program for that. We never used ours for that purposes. We did use it for some bus driver training. But there are adult education opportunities that could be created regionally. Again, once you have a program, your cost, whether you use it 24 hours a day or 20 minutes a day, the cost is the cost. It doesn't cost you any more. You have the equipment, you have the infrastructure. So, but again, frankly speaking, we had it for several years. We tried to offer some adult education classes through North Country Community College, actually. We didn't have any people respond to that call. Co-curricular programs. Last board meeting or the meeting before I talked to the board shared some data with you about student engagement and involvement in co-curricular programs, after school programs. And the more I've looked at that, the more I've realized that we're in a K-12 school and 98% of our co-curricular programs are beginning grade 7. And I think we need to look at that. I think we need to offer more co-curricular programs for elementary students. Probably not for our youngest students. They're pretty exhausted by the time 2:30 comes around. But as students get older and develop more stamina, elementary schools have co-curricular programs beyond elementary soccer and elementary basketball, and then the town does a baseball program. So we have some athletic offerings, but beyond that, we really don't offer an awful lot. I broached the subject with the faculty, and already we have 2 co-curricular offerings, one co-curricular offering called it's a Math Crazy H program for students in K through 6 that we're going to offer this spring, actually starting pretty soon this winter. I wish it was spring. and we've got a lot of other ideas out there. So I'd like to further develop some co-curricular programs for our elementary students. One of the other pieces of data that I shared with you is the fact that we have now and have always had a group of students that we don't engage after school. And quite honestly, they're not engaged during school either. And there is a correlation. Like, we haven't hooked them. They're not interested in what we have going during the day, and they're not interested in anything we have going after school. That's a problem. So it would be really good to provide more diverse offerings for our secondary students in the arts and the music, in areas of technology, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the most recent club that we developed was the anime manga club. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Anime club. Anime
I think
manga.
it was
Yeah.
anime/manga.
Yeah. So that captured a few kids. You know, but we have what I believe to be a concerning number of students who are really not engaged in much of anything. We're supporting the YMCA after school program now, capturing a few more kids, so little by little. And I understand that we have resource limitations. We do. But right now I'm not talking about resource limitations, I'm talking about needs. So whatever resources we have, we've identified some needs. So Sue, this is the what you've been waiting for. Part of what you've been waiting for. And I understand, but I save it till last because I don't want people to get kind of mired in the money. So if we wanted a halftime, increase our full-time or our halftime to a full-time reading teacher, that means we had to hire a halftime special ed teacher, because right now the person's half and half. So no matter how we reassign, we still have additional special ed needs that need to be met. So it's a halftime teacher, that's the cost. 35 to 45. A full-time teaching position, 5'9", you're looking at 60 to 70 with full benefits.
Tim,
Yep.
How available are 5'9" teaching?
I don't think they're that common. I started to do research last year. They're more common downstate for whatever reason. There are several teacher preparation programs in and around the metropolitan area. I think there's one in the whole rest of the state. So must be New York City schools use 5'9" generalists. I don't know why. I'm not that familiar with their programs. But yes, just because we want one doesn't mean we get one. Great question, though. DL program, a full program at $65,000 before BOCES aid.
How much BOCES aid do you think there might be? Something like that.
Mrs. O'Brien?
Generally, we get about 33 to 36%.
About a third.
I don't know if DL or the E-rate still kicks in with the DL costs.
With the telecommunications?
Yeah.
I don't know either.
The low E-rate is being cut back.
So minimum about a third. We have the opportunity to generate more. If we have a teacher that teaches a class to other schools, then we get to aid part of their salary. So if a fifth of their day, if 20% of their day they're teaching on the DL, Mrs. O'Brien gets to funnel 20% of their salary and benefits through BOCES aid. So now we generate the same third on 20% of their salary, if that makes any sense at all. Right, Mrs. O'Brien? If we receive and we assign a teaching aide or assistant in there, same thing. Whatever portion of their salary is spent in the room facilitating that DL program, we've run through our BOCES aid. So the 65 is a budgeted item, but then you generate BOCES aid, that it's not a true 65. It's at most 48. That's if you don't teach any classes and don't receive anything with an 8 in there. I did the math in my head, so I would check it.
That cost includes all the updating.
No. But we updated. We're there. Like our equipment was updated a year later. We turned the lights off. That update was expensive. We borrowed. That was a 3-year payback that we did.
And it's still not obsolete. It's still good.
It's still good for now, but it will be obsolete. About every 5 years, they turn those rooms over. Just like your home computers, they just, yeah. So, but Mike, valid point, great question, great comment, because when you invest in something like this, you have to reinvest in something like this. It isn't just buy it now and it's done.
It's like maintaining.
Yeah. There's also a modified program, and I was just at a meeting yesterday, and I've been like a broken record down there. NARIC/BOCES. NARIC is the Northeast Regional Information Center, which is based out of Albany and go all the way up to the Canadian border. We're part of that NARIC region. They actually oversee the distance learning program. We pay BOCES, but it's really a NARIC distance learning program. I'm not really entirely sure of the relationship between BOCES and NARIC, but we may have an opportunity to pay for a modified distance learning program where we're only allowed to receive classes, can't teach, we only receive at a much reduced cost, like between $10,000 and $15,000. However, we have to, if we were to do that, we'd have to increase our bandwidth with Frontier a lot. If you get the whole program, your bandwidth is included. It's part of the package. If you start a la carting it, $10,000 to receive classes from anybody on the distance learning network, you have to buy your bandwidth separately. And I don't have costs for that. I've asked for costs and I expect to receive them in a week or so. So there is another option. There is something that we might consider, hey, let's get our feet wet again. Let's receive some classes. Let's get connected. Let's get back on the distance learning network. I'll have more definite prices on that by the next workshop. Again, DL's not for everybody.
I can see that kind of transitioning into maybe a bigger thing in the near future with this kind of thing, with just receiving as opposed to the other teaching.
With that modified program where it also allows us to do some of those other things you talked about, the community, teachers networking, or
Teachers networking, yes. Community, probably not. But I don't know. I didn't ask. But teachers networking, yeah. Because then it becomes really 1-to-1 or 3-to-1 multi-point video conferencing with high definition equipment. It's like using Facebook on steroids, basically. But you can, and I don't know, Facebook, can you connect more than 2 people on Facebook? Anybody know? I'm not talking about FaceTime, not Facebook.
Oh,
FaceTime or Skype. Can you do more than 1-to-1?
Never done one-to-one.
Yeah, DL is like 4-to-4.
there are things you can like.
Multi-point.
Yeah.
So that's that. And that cost, well, if it's $10,000 or $15,000, that's BOCES aidable as well. So that's not a true cost. It's an upfront cost. The telecommunications, the increased bandwidth, That's the question that Mrs. O'Brien just asked. E-rate, or the Universal Service Fund, was great to us for several years. We got upwards of 70% of all of our telecommunications costs reimbursed to us. Oh, it was fantastic. Fantastic.
So it's cut.
But they've dialed that back. I do not
Phone
know.
now is pretty much gone, the reimbursement
For phone.
But I'm not sure, I think the internet has still got something.
I think the internet, yeah, there's a difference between phone service and internet service, so there might be continued reimbursement. That was a federal program, the Universal Service Fund. Look on your phone bill, you'll see it because you get charged for it. You fund the UCF fund, or the USF fund, excuse me, USF fund. The summer school option, Sue, this answers your question more directly. It's $8,000 or $9,000 to teach a local summer school program for regular education students. Special education students, a whole other story. We made the decision last year to stop our local program and send them to BOCES just because of resource allocation and BOCES aid. If you do a local program, you don't generate it. If you do a BOCES program, the aid is phenomenal. Like, it covers 80% of the program. It's amazing. The downside is you got to put them on a bus, but the program quality is much improved. So there's reasons to look at both.
In last year, how many students took advantage of that? I thought it was very minimal.
2.
Right. Yes, okay.
1, excuse me.
Do
1.
we think if we offered a local that we would generate 8 or 9 or?
For regular education?
Yeah.
Almost certainly. Yeah. More than 8 or 9. Yep. Co-curricular programs, again, depends on what you're going to offer, depends on how much it costs, but I'm going to put my plug back in for the middle school trip. The trip is worth much more than what it costs to fund it, as far as I'm concerned. It was a hard thing to get in. It was a horrible thing to see go. I'd love to see it back in. We need to, I go back to my comment about why some of our kids didn't like distance learning classes, because they don't like to be uncomfortable. All right, travel is uncomfortable. We need to expose our kids to those situations. We need to have them figure out the subway. Again, with you standing right there, but they need to be exposed to populations that aren't quite as homogeneous as ours, with people that look and dress and think and act alike.
This is a pretty white bread community.
It's yes, it's pretty North Country too, beyond the shade that we are, but it's pretty North Country. This is just one way that we used to, and Mr. Fink was key to this program. It's one way that we would take a group of students and expose them to something different. It was just a nice program and a minimal cost. Everything's minimal to me because Nancy's not looking directly at me. But again, I'm identifying needs. I'm not identifying budget allocations. These are needs. These are real needs. I know that the work that we did with the strategic planning team, I'll put another plug, I'll come in from a different angle. The work that we did from the strategic planning team, the surveys we did, we got feedback. Parents and kids want the middle school trip back. We're going to have a middle school, but we'll make it a 7th grade trip or an 8th grade trip or whatever. That was something that they valued. That's something that we all value. We just got to find the money to do it.
That's something that we talked about. The kids aren't really always taking the opportunity to the senior trip if they're not going anywhere now as younger kids. So for the kids that don't get to travel with their families, they don't get to see other things. So they don't know. It gives them the realization that it's worth working for when they go to Boston and they go to the aquarium, and there's a lot of really cool stuff that.
Today, great point. So now we're folding in our fundraising senior trip committee. Some of the things that we've talked about as well, like you said, if our kid signs off a senior trip project, now we're graduating them. And if they didn't travel with family, they've not gone anyplace. That's unacceptable.
And that's a
B,
big number of kids.
This could encourage them, give them confidence or inspire them, give them the motivation, say, this is really fun. Travel is fun. Going to different places is fun. I want to stick with this whole fundraising thing so that I can get the prize at the end of that rainbow. Again, it depends on the kid, but so hopefully at some point we can more seriously consider that. The other things that I just want to bring up, and I don't want to, these are, we gained a lot last year, and I think we should be proud of that. We've restored multiple part-time positions back to full-time. We've added some curriculum. We've added some co-curricular programs. We've added back in the money for community use of the building, for academic recognition programs, for our barbecues, all those things. We should be very proud of that. These are some of that unpriced meal program is one of the things that has not gotten added back in. And I have really mixed opinions on it. We have the kitchen, we have the staff, we have a program. It's underutilized. So from that perspective, I'd like it to be unpriced. If we have it, use it. Get the maximum benefit out of the program. The other side of me says, if it costs X amount of money to make it unfunded, meaning the school has to increase their subsidy, if you tell me, okay, you have X amount of money, spend it here, here, or here, this won't be my first place. Because our kids are not going hungry. They're bringing bag lunches. They are. Our meal program continues to function. It's just not as efficient, as effective as it could be if more kids utilized it. If you have a 60-passenger school bus and only 20 kids ride it, you have the driver, you have the bus, fill it up. With a school bus, you can just use a smaller bus. Our cafeteria and our staff, you need a minimal staff just to cover your bases. So. But again, I understand when it comes to resources, we can't have everything. I want the board to continue to think about that. And some of you may just, think that even if we had the resources, we shouldn't spend it that way. I understand.
4 years ago, wasn't it determined to be about $18,000?
Number sounds familiar.
Something like that.
Probably.
I'm getting old, so I don't.
We didn't. First year we were very close, but we haven't met our 50,000 or 80,000.
It's probably closer to
And
18,000.
I know our criteria.
We were.
We're just barely.
Very close.
Even.
Yeah. So.
It's very-
Again, I don't know how folks feel about that, using money for that purpose.
How much time does it take out of, because now you've got, we cut back our office staff, but you added to them because now they've got to track and, bill parents and, you know what I mean? So when
I
you
do.
start factoring in, how much time, the employees are spending to track it and.
Mrs. O'Brien, you are the resident expert on that.
It's minimal, an hour and a half of my day and a half hour of Kim's, so that's 2 hours.
2 hours employee
And
time.
then
a
you
day.
have other people, that's just being in the cafeteria collecting and checking off. And then you have paperwork.
For $20,000,
It's,
and it's easy for me to say it this early in a budget development process for $20,000.
it's an awful lot of time.
I was thinking it was fun.
Yeah, so I think it's something we need to continue to consider. The last one is we increased our computer IT support from last year to this year. That's been great. I would like it to be better. We are very technologically dependent. Right now, we have an employee here 1 day a week. We need we need more.
Is that employee here for the full day or
Yeah.
part of the day?
Yeah. Even for a small school, we have a relatively complicated network. We're wireless. You know, it's a lot of work. When that BOSI's employee isn't here, we do it. Uh, we have a local computer coordinator that we now have reestablished a stipend for. So they try to, bridge the gap from day to day. And then we have a lot of kind of unofficial technology experts that less expert people go to when they need help, and we'll continue to have all that. But the computer and the network complexity is just it's changing almost daily, weekly, monthly, and it's just beyond our capacity to handle those things. So that's another need that I've identified. Um, so that was easy. I'm sure that Nancy can fold all of my needs into the next budget run without issue. We're right at 7 o'clock, so we're ready for the board meeting. But questions? Again, a lot of needs, but they're legitimate needs. They're legitimate needs. Questions, comments? Things you'd like to learn more about that I could get some information and bring back to you next month? Okay. Mr. Corey, it's yours. I do have a new agenda.